Welcome everyone to Umzansi Season 4, where we are ready to witness the best players in Africa, of course, do their absolute best and get themselves up on that leaderboard as we are getting halfway through round 1. And of course, everyone wants to be avoiding that relegation. So today, unfortunately, sadly enough, we are hostless. Dr. Sid, unfortunately, is having a little bit of connection issues trying to connect there from the Kingdom of Benin, and he tried his best, but it just wasn't quite working out. So it's just going to be me as proxy and our lovely PUBG mobile caster, Sir Patchy himself, ready to award some Patchy points today, potentially, if he's nice. Are you going to be nice?
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if I'm feeling generous enough today.
Okay. Be nice, okay? These guys are doing pretty good. First off, let's take a look at the schedule, though, to see what you guys are in store for today. Of course, it is only the PUBG Mobile segment, as FIFA 22 is still busy with those transfers. So we have the 3 PUBG Mobile maps that we all know and love. It's Erangel, Sanhok, and Miramar, of course, times depending on how quickly these teams decide to take each other out, which sometimes... I don't know. Sometimes it's pretty surprising. Sometimes we have very early nights, Patchy, but sometimes
Yeah.
they also just these
Sometimes we have very late nights. Yeah.
Sometimes we have some pretty late nights. Yeah, it's the loot phase. It's the zone. We blame the zone all the time. But of course, let's take a look at why everyone is here, why me and Patchy are here, why our production team is here, and why, of course, these players are here. It is, of course, for that Season 4 prize pool, a total prize pool of $17,500. Of course, FIFA 22 taking 2,500 of that, and the PUBG Mobile segment taking 15,000 dollars right in the back pocket, spread amongst I believe it's the top 8, but we'll have that confirmation towards the end of the season. But so far it's been a very competitive Season 4. Let's take a look at that leaderboard just to remind you guys how close it's been this season. Of course, Patchy, I know you cannot wait to tell everyone about your fantastic prediction of 4KT. Am I right?
Yeah. Well, I'm quite proud of that prediction. I popped into that last Miramar game in the chat there. I straight up just threw down 4KT, and I knew they were gonna make it, and they did. And that's sort of a testament to 4KT's actual capabilities. Now we're actually chatting about this behind the scenes a little bit, and you sort of hinted that maybe 4KT was pulling out their guns a little bit too early, or maybe they felt threatened enough to pull out their guns a little bit early. So if that's the case, do you think we're going to be seeing any other teams like maybe catching up, moving up? Because right now, what I'm seeing is I'm seeing G3 at the top. I'm seeing 4KT at the top. And I mean, historically speaking, these teams not going to drop that position all too easily.
No, I mean, G3 Tempo was one of our first teams to pick up those triple digits, and Slime 4KT within a matter of 1 week and made sure to catch up pretty soon. And we suddenly had so many teams within that triple digit range. And yeah, I feel like we're witnessing, Season 1 of G3 Tempo, and we're witnessing, obviously, previous seasons, Slime 4KT were your champions of Season 3. So, 2 very capable teams now, quite close. But today, the teams that we're looking at are, the likes of Rila Insiders. We're looking at KHK, Somalia. And weirdly enough, the first time we saw tonight's groups going head to head was the first day of Season 4. And there, we didn't see Slime 4KT come out on top. No, it was Rila Insiders by a margin of 10 points between them and Slime 4KT. But of course, as you mentioned, we weren't looking at the full roster of Slime 4KT. So tonight, I'm expecting that we should see something similar to the stats we saw previously, except with maybe 2 or 3 teams just absolutely running away with it, because they've obviously been hiding it a little bit. But yeah, I am curious as to why we are suddenly seeing this resurgence of Slime 4KT, because when you saw them in previous season, I think they waited till the last week basically, Patchy, to bring out all those heavy guns and to really start hitting hard to get those points. And then it was just the Slime 4KT story all the way to the end. This time we're barely halfway through round 1 and they do it again. So I don't know. I don't know if they're feeling threatened, if they're just maybe it was a case of scheduling, maybe it was a case of something else, but they definitely made a statement last weekend, and I'm curious to see if they're going to do it again today. I'm not sure. Do you think it's going to be the same thing, or do you think they've set themselves up a little bit too nicely now?
I think that they're really sort of stretching out. I don't think they've brought out all of their guns. I don't think we've seen everything there is to see from those teams. I think since this is the first round, I think they're just kind of stretching themselves a little bit, maybe even flexing a bit on those rising teams that have just come out of Nkosi and that are doing really, really well. Because there are a couple of teams like that. We were talking about KHK, we were talking about C. And I mean, they've been doing really well. So I think maybe it's just a little bit of a flex to say, hey, listen, remember, we're still the top dogs here. You still got to beat us. This, of course, being the first round, you don't really need to clap all the way, 100%. You just need to make it through the round. So I think it's just a combination of, okay, let's stretch out ourselves a little bit. We didn't start off with a full roster. We're not committing 100% just yet. We're getting our toes, dipped into the water. We're getting them wet a little bit. We're seeing what's going on. And we're making sure that we make it into the next round.
Okay, yeah, no, I mean, that's all they need to do, right? You just want to make sure you get through to that round one and then go through to the semifinals. And of course, the way you do that is by picking up as many points as you possibly can and making sure you are not on the last page of that leaderboard. So you saw that previous page, there were a few teams sitting there. They are currently in danger of relegation. So for them, looking at this point structure now, that is vitally important. Of course, we know placement and kills the absolute wombo combo when you look at PUBG Mobile. Placements and kills, getting that fine-tuned balance, with first place with taking the winner chicken dinner, giving you 15 points, second place taking 12, third taking 10, and then it teases down to that 13th to 16th position where you don't really get anything, unfortunately, but you can maybe surpass that or surmise that with some kill points, because for every single kill that you actually manage to get for your team, that's an extra point, which we've seen helps out a lot of teams, especially those teams that obviously do really well in the fights, but they struggle with finding themselves those final placements. And I mean, Patchy, if we look at some of the kill leaders we've seen today, the fact is, Fex4KT, he picked up that kill leader spot within 1 weekend.
Yeah, I mean, it's no surprise that we see the top performing teams like G3 and like 4KT sporting their kill leaders. Sometimes you get those outliers where the team is doing really well in terms of kills and damage, but haven't been able to supplement that with placements a lot of the time, so they're not sitting all the way to the top. I mean, right now we've got really insiders supporting their own player. There's Zeke with 25 kills. But like you said, I mean, when you've got teams that perform so well, such as 4KT, such as G3, we're looking at a very capable team as a unit, but we're also looking at very capable players, very deadly players. And I mean, you can see that in the stats right there. I mean, these guys are just tearing through HPs, doing the damage. I mean, we were watching literally the other day, some of these players being able to isolate like 1v4s as if it was just, a walk in the park, like no problem, so there are some dangerous characters in these lobbies, some seriously tough guys. I mean, we've got our very own like Batman kind of guys going around here, just doing some, beating up a whole city of criminals kind of single-handedly. It's like, you really do have to watch out for these guys.
And I mean, speaking about the people that you need to be watching out for, let's actually take a look at the teams that we'll be seeing tonight. We're going to be seeing the second iteration of Group A and Group B heading head-to-head. So, I mean, some of the teams that we obviously mentioned sitting in that first place spot, we're like KHK, who is a team that came up from Nkosi, who has really been making a fantastic statement. Team Somalia, who, is the previous season's Pan Africa, who also have been doing so well. And I constantly sing their praises, because I was so impressed with the fact that they really picked up their socks towards the latter half of the season, when it was getting even more pressure, when there was more action. They managed not only to survive but do exceptionally well. And of course, Patchy's all-time favorite, BBC, still sitting there.
They're still out here. You can't knock them. I mean, these guys. I must say, I was very impressed with them when watching their evolution into a team that wasn't just a team that sort of exploited some of the crazy things. Because, when you get a team that had some radical ideas like BBC, a lot of people accuse them of like abusing a certain kind of strat or play style. But it was really nice to see them just come in and play a normal meta game and still hand people straight into that lobby, super quick. So, I mean, they can contend. Sure, they're not sitting at the top at the moment, but, I still like to do a little bit of support from the sidelines, just to, you got to give credit where credit's due, man. They be out here.
No, absolutely. And I mean, Slime 4KT, obviously we've mentioned enough about them to understand that we should be watching out for them. Comfy 6, also one of the teams that is a little bit in danger at the moment. They're one of the teams that are sitting in those relegation phases, and they do have some amazing players that we've seen in previous seasons. Obviously, they're a little bit of a mix of previous season teams now, but they've been doing pretty well, and I think they just need to get that last final step up to sort of get them away from that last page and get them into some safety, hopefully, for the next phase, of course. And Young Thundercats, also a team that I felt we've seen a lot from, especially within other tournaments, such as PMBL, PMCO, sorry, those sort of tournaments. We've seen them do really well, but now coming through to Umzansi, there's a little bit of a teeter off. They weren't too bad though. The first time we saw them, they actually came through in 8th place when we saw these groups going head to head with about 14 points for that evening. So they do have the capability to sit within that top 10 spot. It's just a matter of how they perform going up against the other groups, because we know how they performed previously against this group, but when it changes up, obviously the competition, it can get pretty crazy, especially with the zone, who decides to deal the fates of the players, which we know sometimes can be pretty cruel.
Yeah, the blue zone is a cruel master. We've seen it time and time again, and unfortunately, unlike the rest of them, you can't plead with the blue zone, and you can't really change its course. So you get caught out there. There's nothing much you can do. So you got to get out of here. We've seen actually one of the things we've been seeing a lot this season is a lot of teams and players trying to do some healing out in that zone. Trying to keep themselves alive.
Yeah,
I think what I want to see is I want to see players maybe prioritizing trying to push for it rather than take that play, because I've seen a lot of players go, well, I'm the last player left alive, there's 2 teams ahead of me, if I push out now I'm gonna die, so I may as well just sit here healing up in the blue and see how long I can do it for, which is fine. But I mean, I think we've seen that it's possible to do some crazy stuff. You can 1v4. It's entirely doable. So I feel like maybe if you just give it a shot, maybe you'll come up, surprise yourself. I think what's that saying? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So just shoot. See what happens.
Go for it.
see what goes on. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think for a lot of the players, it depends on the situation. I mean, I vividly remember one of the last maps we had last weekend where we had some players, stuck between a few rocks there on Sanhok. They were uphill. The players that they had to try and take out just weren't quite in the position they needed them to be. So sometimes it's possible, sometimes it's not. But also, I mean, that situation could have very easily been prevented with some better rotations potentially, but it all depends on the situation. As we know, PUBG Mobile and RNG go hand in hand, and sometimes the RNG is just not a happy day. But Patchy, I do see that plane flying over, so it looks like our first map of the day is getting ready to get started.
It is. Map number 1 is, of course, going to be Sanhok, and it already looks like we got some players looking for those big patchy points right there. Young Thunder heading out to that island. That's what I like to see. That's what I like to see. Of course, BBC heading down over to Multipower as they do in the rest of the teams. That's a very nice flight path. I must say that we were talking about how RNG really doesn't like us, but that's a really nice flight path for this map. I think the teams are going to be happy with that because they'll basically be able to drop most of the places that they want to go. Maybe Quarry and Primorsk going to be a little bit far, but I mean, still doable. Just hop into a vehicle or do whatever you need to do, depending on where the zone drops is, of course, going to be the crux of the matter, because that's usually where we get the bad RNG. And it's actually going to go south. That's kind of nice. I like that. I like this start.
Why is our zone and our flight path being nice to our players today? What's the catch here?
Something's up, I'm telling you. Something's up. It's gonna happen. All right, it's gonna happen. At some point in this day, at some point in this game, something's gonna happen.
The zone is playing a little bit too nice for my liking. I think it's just trying to give the players a little bit of a false sense of security, as it does tend to do sometimes. But we've also had days where the entire day the zone and the flight path have just been absolutely docile. It's been a perfect zone, a perfect flight path for all teams involved, of course, in the Umzansi Season 4. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if the zone decided to maybe woke up on the right side of the bed this morning, maybe had a fantastic cup of coffee in the morning, and then just decided it's fine. I'm going to be a kind being today. But as we look at it, we do have a few teams relatively close to each other. Of course, we can look at the team here from Fear. Needs to be careful though, because Zuri just on the outside there. Looks like they are trying to just get away, not keen to get into any early fights without the support of the rest of the team. And for now, that loot phase starts getting to go. So, I mean, Patchy, from your side, if we think about, okay, we're at the halfway point of round one. For some of the teams, this is where the pressure begins. This is where you either need to start picking up those points or you're looking at relegation.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right on that. On that front, it is very much the case now. We've been talking about the teams making it towards the top and vying for those top spots, but right now it's actually not the top spots that are really the most impactful. Because sure, it's great to have the boasting points and say, look, I'm smashing you in the leaderboard, like G3 sitting on like 150 points almost. So early on. Sure, it's a good flex, but ultimately what you want to be doing is getting yourself off that fourth page of that overall standings. Like that's where you want to make sure that you're at least between pages 1 and 3. That's it. That is just the main ultimate goal, because 3 weeks from now, it is going to be the end of the round, right? And you don't want to find yourself on that page if you get there. And of course, as you mentioned, one of the teams that finds themselves there at the moment is a team like Comfy 6, for instance, which we want to see make it up. I mean, we don't want to see them getting taken out super early right now. I think the same can be said for most teams. We kind of want to see them move through. So they really do have to pick up the pace a little bit. Now is the time to start, going on the uptick, on the up and up, as it were. But I mean, we've already seen that you can change your entire position on that leaderboard in a single day, right? And sometimes even a single game. I mean, we've seen lots of teams come away with like 30 points in a single game. That's enough to move you off. I mean, if you look at the score of some of those teams on that last page, getting a 30 bomb in a single game, even a 30 bomb over 3 games in a day, like that can move you off that page for sure. And if you just keep yourself above that bar, keep your head above the water after that, you're good to go. You're going to make it through to the next round, which is basically, the goal for this round. So, I mean, it's not impossible for any of those teams, right? They just have to have that day where they're really on point. The practice pays off. They're super focused and driven to get that chicken.
It's also, in these last few weeks, I feel like the competition sort of has a little bit of a waiver there, because some of the teams who are obviously sitting already in those triple digits, who are very, very comfortable in their position right now, practically have confirmed their spot for the next phase. They have one of two options right now. They have that option to absolutely still keep going for it, to pick up as many points as they possibly and humanly can, or they have the option to be a little bit more relaxed, maybe suss out the competition a little bit better, maybe try a few strats out, maybe, rework a few things in the space, because they have set themselves up with such a fantastic foundation that they sort of grant themselves a little bit of a relaxed time, which in a way is fantastic, especially when you're prepping for the semi-finals. You don't have that immediate permanent pressure on you as a team to perform at your highest level permanently, but there's also something to be said for keeping that consistency, never really slacking, never really giving yourself an opportunity to maybe falter a little bit or fall into any bad habits. So I find it very interesting how the teams, may think about this, because we've seen, something similar with like G3 Tempo in previous seasons, where they literally, the last few days, they set themselves up so nicely that they just decided to go on a beautiful joyride on the car through Erangel, through the trees, get a little bit of sightseeing done, because they didn't really need to do anything in terms of points. But when we do look at it here, what's happening on the map right now is we do have Comfy 6, who may have actually spotted the players there from Rainbow Six. Madagascar looks like they are deciding to just do a full-on rotation, so it doesn't look like we're going to be picking up any sort of fights immediately. Thus far, we still have 15 teams alive, 57 players left though, so some players have unfortunately felt a little bit of an unfortunate end, but for the time being, I feel like most of the teams still well set up. It's just getting that loot phase done and dusted, and of course making sure those rotations are complete. I do see a few players that are a little bit away from the rest of their team. If we look there towards KHK and Fear, KHK right now a little bit sandwiched between the likes of KHK.
Yeah, this is the sort of slow pace that we've come to expect so far in this season to the beginning of rounds and whatnot. And while it's not really my favorite approach to rounds, you can see why it's panned out. I'm hoping that changes as we move from round to round, and I'm sure that it might just do so. I think maybe the early activity that we're so desperate to see, or at least I'm so desperate to see, comes with the sort of sifting out, when the teams are a little bit less and there's some more space to maneuver, and the teams actually have a little bit more leeway when it comes to playing around the map early on, and they can maybe get stuff done. But for now, we get that slow gameplay. We get the pacing coming out there. All the teams just getting themselves looted, getting ready to go. I can see some teams congregating there in towards the middle of the zone. The real question is, where does that zone rotate? Because if it goes down south, I'm going to be very, very happy, because that means we're going to be getting some bridge fights. And of course, the teams will be tested on their knowledge of the military island. And if you've been listening to your boy Patchy, then you would have known to play on the island, to learn all its ways, so that you can become a master of the island, right? And that's where the true test of your abilities comes through.
And what if it moves north, away from the island?
I'll be sad and I'll cry for a very long time.
And the players have to make that rotation across the bridge, which, if any teams are being smart and containing that rotation path, then unfortunately teams like Young Thundercats here will be in a little bit of trouble, or might just have to look for a little bit of a swim. And I mean, depending on the weather, here it's pretty cold. I don't know. I wouldn't want to go for a swim right now, but hey, maybe it's pretty hot that side. So swim might be a welcome change. I don't know. It's we'll see how it pans out. But for the time being, of course, moving through past zone 1 that has started to close off, and a lot of the teams, as you can see, making their rotations. They do not want to get caught in that just yet. So quite a few early rotations. It does look like that zone moved a little bit north. Away from military base. I mean, Young and the Thundercats, so for the time being, yes, you're crying. It's okay. But what I'm worried about is, look at Young Thundercats and the options they have to rotate. As it stands, I mean, that that doesn't look too fun, because right in front of them, it's lag, it's comfy. Like, there's so many teams on that beachfront or on that bridge. So the rotation that they need to make now, either they need to go the long way around and maybe cross paths with the BBC, maybe take a page out of BBC's book and get a boat and start sailing immediately. But yeah, this might be a little bit of an issue, especially if Comfy 6 stay in that position for longer, because it does look like Young Thundercats are just going to go straight across the bridge, and they might actually get contained here. Ooh.
Yeah, it's going to be a difficult time if they decide to cross that. But maybe if Company 6 are watching for this one, they can pick up some kills, which they definitely need at this stage right now. You can see some rotations coming through, not too crazy. Teams are really just positioning all over the place. That's mostly been the name of the game for the last 10 minutes. Teams looting up, teams positioning, and getting closer and closer. We see a little bit of tussling here. Rainbow Six taking a couple of shots in towards Unique KHK, getting into the mix there as well. That DP going off in the kill feed. And of course, as we move on over to that particular fight, you can see Maxin just chilling right at the top of this hill, looking to see if he can spot anyone else. There's a couple of teams up ahead of him, but of course, no hard commits to any fights, which is probably the smart thing to do at this time, especially when you know that there's a couple of teams in front of you. Rainbow Six under a little bit of pressure. Maybe they're going to buckle. Oh, they've got the strong hold. Maybe if KHK decide to push through, though, I'm sure they could take this.
Yeah, KHK has been pretty good and pretty consistent in their performances thus far. So, I mean, they're one of those teams that are sitting quite comfortable at the moment. For them, this is a bonus at this point in time. They're not really in any danger because they're still sitting in that top 8 at the moment on the leaderboard, on the overall leaderboard, I might add. So, for them, I mean, I'm expecting nothing less, from absolute just madness, in all honesty. Whether or not Rainbow Six is going to be the victim of that, I'm not too sure, because they have been putting in some nice shots there. You can see Lewis and Magazine a little bit low on HP. Have to just reiterate that obviously everyone in this lobby, they got some aim. They got some aim, so they can give you back some of the damage you've been dealing. It does look like Young Thundercats were able to make that rotation. They're still sitting very close to Comfy 6 at the moment, but at least they're across the bridge. They're not in the water. I don't see a ridiculous amount of knocks coming through from their side, so somehow, some way, they've snuck on through, of course, with all the amazing patchy point loot that they could want. And for the rest of the teams, yeah, you can see Sincerity picking up a few shots, giving out a few as well, but for the time being, just a friendly hello and how you doing to Ultra 6 at the moment. Just making sure that they're well aware, that they're here and that they're there, and they know this. They just want to say hi. which is quite friendly, Patchy. I think it's quite a
Yeah.
cautious thing to do.
Of course, yeah. And I mean, if you move into a new neighborhood, you got to greet your neighbors and give them a welcoming gift and
With
all that fun
bullets,
stuff.
yes.
Yeah, of course. I mean, what else you got to give in this game? There's no greater gift than a couple of rounds of hot lead into the head. That's generally the expected gift when it comes to this game. I'm trying to figure out, as Proxy, whether or not it was KHK that I'm thinking of that a couple of weeks ago showed their really clean pushing strategy. I'm not sure if can't remember if it was KHK. It might have been KHK. They were really, really good at just going from building to building and just like flushing out team after team. If it was KHK, then I'm expecting that to come back. I want to see that return a little bit. Well, here we go. We were talking about the downside. We were talking about the catch. We had such a good flight path, such a good zone. Here's the catch. Here is the catch.
You're lying.
We're going down to the bridge again. And you know what they say? Go down to the river. And here we are. We're going down to the river. It is an absolute mess at the top of that western bridge right now. Just about every team and their grandmother is there for the festivities. So it's about to be a fun time.
Yeah, look, I don't think that that sort of a party is allowed in the times we're living in now, but for the time being, we do see KHK and Fear having a little bit of a party of their own. So far, one from Fear going to be dropping down, and KHK very happy to pick up that knock, just looking for a little bit more, though. 56 players left alive. So, I mean, from the last time that I read those numbers, they haven't changed much, but it looks like Fear might unfortunately be the victim of the changing in times. As we look at the KHK, very, very active at the moment here. Still trying to find a little bit of information. Yeah, Pennywise going to be spotting one. Doing a little bit of damage, and the 98 shot coming through there from KHK was in fact the way that they found that first opener. But now the nades need to be prepped, and they need to be very careful, because where they take this might be the detriment. KHK a little bit more split up, but they have managed to basically surround Fear, and Fear right now are blowing up left, right, and center. It is not a fun time to be Fear.
It certainly is not. I think Fear are experiencing their own name right now as KHK just pulls up straight on them, puts them into the ground about 6 feet under. I don't even need to say much more about that, because that is literally just what we witnessed here. I mean, that was it. That was it. Fear was just there, and then they weren't there.
Literally in a blink of an eye. But that's just because of how, you mentioned it. If it was KHK that was so good and really taking those positions, I think you can sort of see why it would be them, because the way that they positioned themselves as the team, they completely surrounded Fear, and then all they had to do is literally just take pot shot after pot shot after pot shot, and Fear literally had to try and 360 no scope every single person that was around them if they had a chance of surviving there. So unfortunately, they will be the first team to go out. Still seeing quite a lot of chaos, as you mentioned, was the northern side of that bridge, and still a lot of teams to rotate through. We've only dropped one team so far, Patchy, one team, and we're in zone 4.
Yeah, this is exactly how this entire season has been going so far. But I would like to point out that right there, we just saw most of BBC get eliminated by Team Somalia, which on one side makes me sad. In fact, that actually might just be almost the entirety of BBC. I think they only have one player left, which is sad for me, because BBC gets taken out. But Team Somalia doing a pretty good job of picking up those kills. 4KT actually now on the attack as well. You can see Young Thunder rotating off in the distance. We've got Ultra 6 right up here with the Insiders. And is this the Insiders? I think it's the Insiders. Yeah, it is it's really Insiders, yeah. Right up in the compound, right to the side of them. They've got to get moving, because that blue zone's going to start pushing up right behind them, and that zone is looking very difficult. Most of that is water in the river. We've got a bit of bridge, and we've got some landmass on the other side where nobody is right now. Team Somalia now in a bit of a tussle, as Nahal, the last BBC player, is trying to get the rotate. You can see the rest of the teams. They've come for the party. They are showing up, but they are gate crashing. They didn't get a ticket. They're not invited, and they're thrown away.
Well, they do have some hot lead pie ready and baked and set for the rest of the teams that they're happy to share as much as they can. But for the time being, it does look like Young Thundercats and Rainbow Six are picking up a little bit of a tussle there. It doesn't look like it's going too well for Rainbow Six, however. And then lo and behold, who gets involved? It's KHK to come and ruin the party. Not only taking out a few members there from Rainbow Six, but now they've turned their attention onto Sincerity as well. Everyone is just taking a piece of the action right now, because Team Somalia also taking a few shots towards Sincerity. C finding KHK. Everyone is just going absolutely crazy. You can see the team's already dropped down to 11 as we look at it. 35 players left alive, and that kill feed is still going. And I mean, that's just what we would expect with the chaos that has come from basically every single team making it to the 4th zone.
Yeah, 4KT coming in the back like a train, choo-choo, just riding over everybody. Sincerity down in the mix as Team Somalia is now right up here. Some nades going off as they are under some pressure. It looks like El Chapo might not be able to push past that doorway. He's having a little bit of a problem with that as the rotations come past to try and get inside of that zone, but it's fight to the finish at this point because that blue zone is hot on their heels and they've got to make a push forward right into the face of Sincerity, or at least past them. They're going to have a tough time to try and do that. Link's going to get taken down in the meantime as the Rila insiders are going for it as well. Nice Molotov getting thrown there by Inky. That's going to push them right back off that angle for quite some time at least. They're buying the time, which at this point is all that matters while that blue zone is rolling in. You can see everyone squeezing into the available landmass. Nobody's crossed the bridge, and that's because the only team that decided to drop on that island was Young Thundercats. Right now, which means no one is making use of that sweet free real estate, which is shame on you, by the way. But in any case, here we are. Ultra 6 under fire. It looks like they might just get taken out as that blue zone rolls up right behind them. Rila Inside is fighting for the time, fighting for the space at the moment, and I don't think Ultra 6 is going to be able to hold back onto this one. In the meantime, aimbot going for those nades. Mojo gets taken down as well as Vingard, and the Ultra 6 team does get eliminated there. So that's a little bit unfortunate for them. We're finally down to 9 teams, so we are well underneath that top 10 team bracket. We've been taken all the way down to 28 players, and this is the kind of chaos that we expect when nothing happens for 4 zones.
Yeah, look, the chaos is expected, and it's still going on. You know, there was a little bit of a time for a few of the teams to just sort of take a breather, but now once again that zone chip comes through, and Team Somalia under fire here with Sincerity. It's Inky left alive, and Kingerman is just trying to clutch it out there for the team, but it's not going to be the case, or at least the positive case there for Team Somalia. Sincerity will go on with it looks like only 2 members alive, but at least it's still 2 members in this to pick up those placement points in top 8. We currently find ourselves, and still many teams trying to make those rotations. You can see 4KT have seen C as they try to make their rotation there towards the bridge, towards that inner zone, and towards some sort of safety. Ooh, Comfy 6 still in this one, and I mean, I see a few teams making a nice little swim there. Hopefully they'll be finding themselves a little bit of safe solace there.
Yeah, unfortunately for them, the zone has once again shifted in, and their only safety and hope is to try and make it in to maybe underneath the bridge or try and hole up on the side of the shoreline. Whatever they decide to do, it is certainly going to be a very, very difficult hold nonetheless. You can see Young Thunder right up here in the Wizard Tower and the compound next to it, which is going to give them a little bit of control over this area. 4KT off on the one side. They have to try and make a re-entry into the zone. It's not going to be fun. C under some serious fire as one comes on in. Illy going to go down. Shot going on through. We'll see if 4KT can survive the onslaught. They're doing some donuts. They're doing some spins. It's going to give them good luck. No, it isn't. Fex goes down immediately. 5 now under some serious fire, and he might just get taken out immediately. Some precision shots. That car is about to see its last moments in this game, potentially, if it's not blown up already. And of course, that's going to be a bit of a problem. The rest of the team's trying to make their way across that line. Things are heating up for sure. Those smokes have been popped to try and prolong their lives as much as possible. But Comfy 6, they're up on the lighthouse. They've actually got pole position here. They're quite happy to just chill. Everyone else, oh, they're just going to kill each other.
Oh, I think that might have been the last remnants there of 4KT. I'm not too sure. Oh, no, wait, we still got 1 member at least still alive. But so far, it does look like a lot of teams that we were expecting to do fantastically are suffering a little bit here, are in a little bit of trouble. And for Comfy 6, absolutely, I agree with you. This could be massive for them if they can pick up this this game, maybe pick up some kill points. And so far you can see those rotations there coming through. The swims not so great, you know, sometimes that swim just doesn't work out for you. But with Comfy 6 holding on to this lighthouse, I mean, you're talking about real estate now. Look at the real estate they're holding, but that zone shift once again It's just not a happy day for anyone that did not focus on the bridge. I think only really insiders are really in a fantastic position, but anyone that's going to be above them, it's going to come down to a zone finish. It's going to come down to who's going to survive the zone the longest if we have some on top of the bridge and some under the bridge at this moment in time, Patchy. What is happening?
Yeah, you want to drop on main island. You want to spend 4 zones doing nothing. This is the price you pay, ladies and gentlemen. This is the price you pay. Now you are stuck in the chaos. Rila inside is under fire. They're trying to hide underneath the bridge. Young Thunder now has to make their way up into that zone. So does Comfy 6. They thought they were safe in the lighthouse, but no, they weren't. And they're not even safe underneath that bridge either as they go off the cliff and just meet certain doom. Crazy gonna hit the floor true underneath. Some serious pressure. Broly going absolutely nuts, eliminating C one by one. Squeak chiming in with a couple of bits, a couple of shots up towards that particular side there. Now Young Thunder coming around the inside. For Rila inside is now sandwiched in between half of Comfy 6 and the rest of the team's. Broly still doing what he does and just putting in some damage in that kill feed. Really going to hit the floor. That play zone doing its job. J-Rilla going to get naded out of existence. Crazy gets thirsted as well. Absolute chaos for these 6 remaining teams right now as they fight over an insanely limited bit of real estate. Half of that ground is just water, the other half is bridge, and everyone else is just fighting over the scrambles of rocks that remain true. Slam dunking, of course, with those nades. Azuri gonna go down as well. Broly has just been on something else, and right now Squeak looking for a free pickup here, free kill. Potentially tossing some nades down, doing the classic Russian fishing variant where you throw dynamite in the water and see what happens. That's my favorite way to fish.
That's the only good way to fish, really. Let's be honest. But as you're talking about it, you know, real estate, weirdly enough, most of the teams are focusing under the bridge. So there's not a lot of teams actually sitting on the bridge right now, which is, I mean, a good thing for the final zone, because it doesn't mean we're going to be looking at, you know, a heel off towards those later halves. I don't know. It depends on where Squeak is going to be going, because if she decides, you know, to meet up with Brody there, then, you know, maybe we might be seeing all of the teams just somehow, some way made a unanimous decision to fight under the bridge tonight. And for Young Thundercats, the team picking up the patchy points today, they are currently sitting in the best possible position because they got all of their members alive, obviously kitted with those patchy point gear, and they are sitting well within a position of absolute premise because they can see virtually everything except for insiders here, which are hugging the mountain, hugging as close as possible to any sort of remnants of cover that they can find, really. And here for Broly and Squeak from Comfy 6, it's a little bit of a situation here because they decide to push forward. Oh, I think Broly just got knocked as well. They decide to push forward. They're going to first run into real insiders, not probably have any sort of time to reset themselves, and then bam, here comes Young Thundercats. And it actually looks like the insiders are going to be the ones to push on to Comfy 6, or at least the remnants of Comfy 6, which is only Squeak at the moment. And that is that for Comfy 6. And now it is the fight between real insiders and Young Thundercats. Oh, who's going to be taking this one, Patchy?
Oh, I have no idea, but right now, Young Thunder making the moves, pushing under that bridge. It's Adonis making a little bit of a move, making a bit of an aggressive move at that. Romeo right behind him to try and capitalize, and the damage is being done. They're on the run. This might be the end of the Rila insiders. It should be Zeke on the back foot, and down he goes. I'm not saying that they have gotten a +5 to their luck stat for dropping on the island. However, they were the only team that dropped on the island. I'm just putting that out there as a completely separate and unrelated fact. It's the Young Thundercats with that chicken dinner.
Absolutely insane coming through here from the Young Thundercats, who, I mean, the first time we saw them, and I briefly mentioned that they were one of the teams that we know for a fact has the capability to pick up that winner chicken dinner. Now, they didn't do it with an absurd amount of kills that we saw some of the teams doing last week, but it's that sort of consistency that helps push them up the leaderboard bit by bit, and it becomes absolutely crucial as we go through this first round because, of course, we don't want to see Young Thundercats in relegation. We don't want to see anyone in relegation, but unfortunately, some teams do have to go down there. So at the moment, at least for the time being, I think Young Thundercats did a pretty good job at picking up enough points to, you know, just bump them up a little bit, you know, with that winner chicken dinner and with the, I think, 4-5 kills that they picked up. Not too bad, actually. Not too bad.
Certainly not too bad. You know, we were actually talking, I think we mentioned Young Thundercats sometime towards the beginning of today. We were looking at how their performances was. We were weighing up a lot of different teams. And Young Thundercats have come in. They've gotten themselves a chicken. They've put some points on the board, and that's going to help them out quite a bit. The question is, have the other teams been doing enough? Because right now, I think as we move into the second half of the round, and we start looking at what sort of teams are actually performing well, who's getting the chicken, who's getting the points, we have to start focusing on those teams that are on that fourth page. You know, we mentioned it in the beginning, just before we went into the match, but that is really where the focus is going to start being. You know, it's really going to be the teams in the hot seat. You know, we'll keep an eye on who's sitting at the top and who our top performers are. But I think if that doesn't change very much, if that stays even, we're going to be looking at those teams on page number 4 with some very keen interest. Right now, I think we've got the likes of 4KT and G3. There's no doubt that they're going to be sitting towards the top. I mean, even if they stop playing now, they will be fine for the round, most likely.
Pretty much.
So they'll, you know, there's going to be little to talk about unless they start pulling some crazy stuff. And this is actually why I like the idea of teams that are performing really well staying in there and keeping the performance steady, because they really make it difficult for other teams to pull off some crazy stuff. So this is what I'm talking about here. With the Young Thundercats, they got the chicken dinner. Very, very nice. Rila Insiders, of course, coming up with some 20 points as well to match. Comfy 6, though, getting a 3rd place and 18 points. This is what they need. They were looking for some points to try and get off that 4th page, and 18 points is a good way to start that out.
No, I agree with you. Again, it's that sort of consistency. You know, it's not like, oh, you're picking up a 30-plus point game, which we've seen some teams do before. But if they can pick this up and they can stay at this level, they'll definitely be able to push themselves over and above the point that they need to be to avoid relegation, which is at this point the only goal that any team needs to do. Right now, all your focus needs to be is getting into the next phase, getting into those semi-finals. You can go absolutely crazy when we get to the semi-finals, but for the time being, do your best, get through that. What I do want to point your attention to, of course, Patchy, just because I like to push it at you, BBC and Slime 4KT, where they're currently sitting.
Hey, listen, like I said, 4KT don't need to do anything. Yeah, they can chill. Like they can sit back and play RuneScape or something. You know, they don't have to do much. BBC, for the other hand, hey, listen, don't slam the boys. All right, they got done in by some unfortunate circumstances. All right.
No, absolutely.
I mean, we've been talking about how Team Somalia has been doing really, really well. So it makes sense that, you know, they got a little bit of the bad end of the stick there when going up against that particular team. Of course, the MVP coming out of Rila Insiders, and it's going to be Zeke. 4 kills, 496 points of damage there for that game. But, yeah, just to harken back to what you said, it really is about that consistency. And, I mean, sure, you can get a 30-point game. We were talking about that earlier. You can get a 30-point game, but the chances of that happening are kind of slim. I mean, there are some teams that can pull it off. Yeah. But I think that's where you really have to separate the difference between your sort of shining star teams and everyone else. Like, some teams can just wake up one day and be like, all right, we're dropping 30 today, boys. The rest of us have to work really hard.
Yeah, the rest of us are normal, Patchy. There's the difference.
Yeah.
But, I mean, with that being said, first map of the day, Erangel done and dusted. So when we go to our short break, you can actually take a look at the current standings, the overall standings. We're actually only going to the two of us actually only going to look at that at the end of the stream. But if you want to check it out so far, you know, if the quick math is not necessarily a strong suit, then don't worry, you can go check it out during the break. It'll be on the board, unless you're watching us from Jinx, in which case you should go check out the YouTube stream. Just saying. But for the time being, we're going to go to a very short break. When we come back, of course, it's Sanhok, and we're hopefully going to see some crazy action once again, as we should be expecting from Umzansi Season 4, brought to you by Northern Gaming Africa. Be right back. Welcome back, everyone, to Umzansi Season 4. And if you've missed Erangel, then don't worry. We're going to go take a look at the standings and just remind you about what we saw, what we witnessed, other than the zone being an absolute cruel, cruel mistress, you know, giving false sense of hope, making the players believe they were safe, and then taking it away to a final zone on top of the bridge. But Young Thundercats and Rila Insiders were the team to pick up the most amount of points there with 20 each, and Comfy 6 picking up 18, which, as we've mentioned, is absolutely vital for a team like them who are very close to relegation. And for some of the other teams, you know, like KHK, Slime4KT, not really the performance we were expecting from them, but again, is it really necessary? Because teams like those that we've just mentioned are sitting on the overall leaderboard with about triple-digit points. I mean, I don't think they really need to worry about it, Patchy.
I mean, on one hand, yeah, they don't need to worry about it, but on the other hand, they still do need to keep putting points down just to make sure that they're consistent, they don't lose their place. I mean, we were saying how, oh, you know, there's no ways they can drop down, but I mean, it's possible that they could, you know, theoretically get taken down all the way to page number 3. And I mean, even if, you know, maybe even 4, I'm not too sure if that actually works out, but they might just be knocked down to like 3, for instance, if they don't do anything about it, or even low down onto 2. Of course, you don't want to be there. You know, that's kind of a meh place to be. You want to sort of show that you're someone that needs to be worried about. You kind of got to make a statement.
Oh, yeah.
So you want to be on that first page, I think, by now. So you just got to passively drop those points, you know, make sure that you're staying up there with the best of them. I think one of the biggest reasons, in my opinion at least, for the teams that are sitting at the top to continue to push for points is actually not to get them at the top. It's to get the other guys and just keep them down there.
At the bottom. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the big one.
Yeah. It's exactly that. That's what I said. You know, most teams who are sitting in that very comfortable position where they've basically put foundation down, and it's a pretty sturdy one, and they should be looking into the next phase. They have one of two options. They can either be, you know, that team that makes sure that the rest of the teams are going to suffer even further, or they can be that team that's staying consistent, or they can be that team that's just trying out new things and relaxing and preparing for the semifinals to once again surprise us and leave us on the edge of our seats, as we know KHK have done in the past. You know, not KHK, Slime4KT actually, but KHK coming through from Nkosi, they were actually one of the teams that were the most consistent. So a team like KHK, I don't expect to just be sitting back and be relaxing and not doing anything really. I expect them to keep pushing. I expect them to keep going and picking up as many points as possible, because that's the style that they've been showing us through, obviously coming through from Nkosi. I mean, they were well ahead of everyone else, but they still kept registering every single week for Nkosi. They still kept coming back and picking up points. And by the way, if you don't know what Nkosi is, then you should go check out the Northern Gaming Africa at northerngaming.africa to perhaps, you know, go register and come show us your skills. I don't know. I think that's a pretty good idea, Patchy.
Yeah, I don't know. Never really thought about it. And maybe I should sit and consider signing myself up with the boys.
Cast the team.
I definitely have all of the. Oh, actually, that could be a little bit fun. Maybe plan one of those down the road.
We can get DK in here, maybe like Fire, Viper. We can.
Yeah,
you know,
I rate that would be the strongest team. Not gonna lie,
yeah.
I'd vote for that team. Right
We
there.
only drop Military Island.
Absolutely. I mean, why wouldn't we do? There's no other. There's no place to drop. Where else do you drop, dude? There's nowhere else.
But you've told me. This is the issue. On Sanhok, where's the patchy points?
So when it comes to Sanhok, the points don't really have a specific spot, because you know the island's so small. You could drop everywhere. There's no truly neglected. If there's a neglected part of that map, let me know. We'll put the patchy points there. But for Miramar, at least, there is an island down in towards the south where nobody ever goes, and
no one ever goes there.
It's like 1,000 patchy points for that one, because nobody catches that place ever.
Oh, yeah.
It's sad.
It is, because it's such a good place to drop as well in terms of loot, and you set yourself up. The only thing, once again, the same risk as we see in Military Island, it's that rotation. It's that rotation that becomes an issue. And for this map, for Sanhok, as we know, you know, for some of the viewers who might not be familiar with Sanhok, it is a map that is about half the size of the map you've just witnessed, which was Erangel. So the strategies change a little bit, right? We talk about close quarter combat. We talk about teams who have to be very, very concerned about third parties, fourth parties, fifth parties, about teams ruining their fights, or they need to make sure that their fights are quick and swift. Otherwise, they're going to be falling themselves into a trap where they're sandwiched between other teams rotating in, where, you know, they're picking up not the kills that they might have wanted, because everyone is sort of just sneaking one away. Sort of similar to what we saw in that final zone on Erangel, where everyone was just taking a piece of each other. Everyone had literally view of each other, so they could just steal points left, right, and center, which does mean we genuinely see that those kills get a little bit more distributed, which is a fantastic opportunity for other teams to get a little bit more active, because they have that information on hand. They can hear when teams around them are fighting. They can hear when they can get involved in those sort of fights, which, again, absolutely crucial if you need to climb the leaderboard to make sure you don't fall into relegation. So, Apache, I mean, what are some of the other things that we talk about when we talk about Sanhok that we've seen so far in Umzansi? How do we sort of see the teams shift a little bit?
Well, I mean, when it comes to how to deal with the situation that definitely always arises on Sanhok, it's always about your play style, right? Because of the fact the map's so small, there's obviously a lot more CQC. So a lot of teams don't actually like that. They like the longer range engagements and whatnot. So they can actually force that out. They can actually create long range engagements on this map. It's not the most easy or natural thing that happens all the time, but you can get it. Which is why you actually see a lot of fighting on particular hills. If you watch, historically speaking, when it comes to this particular map, you almost always see like the same hill in every single match. You see very, very commonly the fights take place in sort of common areas where you can create a bit more space. There's a little bit easier or more familiar terrain to utilize and whatnot. We also see some hot drops on this particular map sometimes, which can help with the early game and to create some breathing room, which is very, very important actually, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think just, being aware of the space that's around you, and maybe, as you said, creating a little bit of breathing room and just giving yourself a little bit of a safe haven becomes absolutely vital, especially when that chaos really starts going and, things get hectic. Things get very, very scary if you aren't, in control of your surroundings as much as you can, obviously, up to a point. This is Battle Royale at the end of the day. If we take a look at it, the flight path going straight there from south to north, a little bit teetering towards that western side, and that zone. Once again, I mean, it's the first zone on Sanhok, so it's going to cover a majority of the map, but I think it's once again relatively nice to our players.
Well, here we go. We've got a little bit of hot drops. It's Team Somalia and it's Ultra 6 going at it head to head straight off the bat, which is very nice. We had some nice knocks coming out of Team Somalia, so I think they may have dealt with most of the Ultra 6 presence in this area. I don't know where the rest of Team... Did we get a knock? Have we already had a team eliminated?
No,
Or
no. We
were there
start
only
with
15
15.
teams in this
Yeah,
one?
we start with 15.
Okay, so we haven't had a knock just yet, or a complete elimination just yet. Yeah, so there's the rest of Ultra 6 on the one side. They've been battered a little bit and bruised, and indeed, as you can see, Mojo getting taken up by Hulk. Not a good start to the game for Ultra 6 at all here. Fear going to be putting on a bit more pressure. Lynx, I'm not too sure if he's going to be able to get this res. I mean, they've already dropped 2 players, and now it's all on the back of Lynx to try and make something happen. And speaking of 4KT moving up, punching Chris in the face. Poor guy. He's got that knuckle sandwich to feast on while he waits in the lobby. And 4KT just doing what they do. They dropped in boot camp and they immediately left. And this is actually something I like. Sometimes you see hot drops in boot camp and then you see a little bit of fighting happening there. 4KT, they drop in boot camp. Nobody contests them. So they're like, all right, cool. They get the loot. They move out immediately. They start picking up kills. They start getting active. And I think that's going to pay off, especially on a map like this. We were talking about creating space. Look at that. If they deal with any of those players from, maybe Team Somalia or Fear, they've got the whole center point or portion of that mainland completely to themselves.
I do need to point your attention to the fact that 4KT is a 4-man squad this time around and not a 3-man squad.
Ooh, that spells doom for everyone else, potentially.
Yeah, look, I mean, Sanhok and the combination of 4KT does give me a little bit of shivers in my boots, because we've seen what they can do before. We've seen what they can do as a trio. We've seen what they can do as a duo. Now they got all 4 players. We'll see if that is the same situation moving, of course, towards the end of the zone. Anything can happen until that point in time, but if that is the case, then once again, we might be seeing a little bit of an interesting segment. Talking about an interesting segment, you were talking about how you give patchy points to those who drop onto the islands, that are least used. I do see Young Thundercats were one of the only teams to once again take an island for themselves there. So, I mean, I feel like some patchy points might be deserved. They're the only ones there, they're making sure the entirety of the map is being used, patchy.
Yeah, You're right. You're right. They got the patchy points in the previous game, and now they're making sure that they still out here. They still out here, still keeping it with the spirit of of the big patchy points.
Of the
That's
patchy
great. All right,
points.
we'll keep an eye on them. We'll see what happens. Taking that chicken dinner in game number 1 was no accident, by the way. That's a quote from Master Oogway. There are no accidents. So just putting that out there. If you missed game number 1, then you might want to go watch that to see the reason why they took that chicken dinner. But here, of course, in map number 2, and of course being Sanhok right here, we've got a whole nother game to play. Right now, we've got KHK down in the south, all the way down at the bottom. So they've got a lot of space to themselves. Hopefully they start utilizing that because, of course, they have to move. They have to rotate. And right up ahead of them, they've got the remnants of Ultra 6 there. They've got Team Somalia up in that particular direction as well. We've got Sincerity here in this little corner of the map down there in the southwest as well. So maybe we'll see a continued redemption story here. And Sincerity continues to put some points in the board. And another redemption story that we've been following is, of course, Comfy 6, who got 18 points in map number 1. They need a few more to boost themselves out of that 4th page. But if they continue to drop, 15, 16, 17, 18 points in a game, they'll be able to move up off that page no problem.
Yeah, agreed. We've mentioned consistency so many times before that it really just comes down to that. Any points at this point in time, I've said points so many words in one sentence, but any points right now where we are at within Umzansi Season 4 will count, will absolutely be helpful to any sort of team that's looking to climb that leaderboard. So for them, again, I agree. Like if they can actually hold on to like a 15-point game here, maybe even an 18-point again, they could be climbing that leaderboard much quicker than we would expect them to, which would be fantastic to see, because then again it's that redemption story that comes in, and then once again it puts pressure on whoever spot they take. So I'm keen to see how that leaderboard is going to look at the end of today. But for the time being, of course, the teams are making their rotations into that zone, just get a little bit of safety. KHK still taking their time to loose up quite nicely. Young Thundercat's going to be one of the second last teams to go in. Of course, Lynx for Ultra 6 is just hiding, just buying his time. Does not want to run into anyone right now as a solo there for Ultra 6. Because, of course, we know placement points, they really can make a difference. So if he can snake his way into some good positions, it might be absolutely vital for the team. But looking into Brennan here from C, picked up one there from Lag. And now Lag on a little bit of a back foot here. Zero has been thirsted at the moment, but the Fantasy is doing well to get a little bit of revenge there onto Brennan as he does go down. And now this is an opportunity for Lag to push on forward, get the rest of the team, get the full cycle of revenge. And with Brennan being thirsty there, it actually comes down to a 3v3 scenario here with a team from C. I feel like might be in a little bit of trouble there if we look, because Berserk there with that flanking position, as soon as they try and make that rotation, thinking they might be safe from one in Fantasy, they might have a little bit of a surprise on their hands.
Yeah, it's not easy to fight in this particular compound either. You can see there's a lot of ups and downs, staircases all over the place. C can utilize those to maybe get some angles here, but as you mentioned, there's a good watch coming out of Lag at the moment. They've got some nice spread out that's going to give them the angles that they could potentially be looking for here. So basically what we're looking for is just to see if C is going to be able to get out of the situation.
No.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm not going to start with that, actually. We're not going to start with that. Fantasy on the right-hand side there. He's going to back off for the time being and just going to wait and watch in patience. I'm trying to avoid saying things like wait and see, because I can't say see it. It's going to happen. And I know we can't let that happen. So they're just going to wait and watch, all right? And observe what is going to occur at this particular moment in time.
Observe, watch. Do you want more synonyms?
Yeah, I'm going to get up with the thesaurus real quick.
We can just talk about our team from the Ivory Coast. That's also an option. So they do, as C does come from Ivory Coast. So there's another option for you, Patchy. Other than that, maybe chat can help you out with some synonyms for C. Cinnamons. Listen, okay. I've got a little bit of a lip. Don't come at me here, please. But as we look at it, there's another word for you. At the moment, it's sort of just dwelled down. Both teams, they've taken a member each, but now it's just automatically come to a halt. Both teams have healed up. They're just sitting and waiting for the other to make the move while the rest are still rotating in. And once again, KHK still late, I'd say, Patchy. I feel like they're still in the same position we literally just saw them in the last time we looked at the map. Only doing a little bit of movement now.
Yeah, they haven't really moved at all. They're just chilling. And I suppose that's okay. If you want to fight with that blue zone, now is the best time to try. If you're going to just chill and play the slower game in the blue, this is the first zone. You can do it. It's not going to do that much damage. And maybe you'll let the other teams, trim down the herd a little bit. I mean, 4KT is right there in the mix. They've had the whole middle of the zone, or at least the map for themselves at the moment. So they might just get converged upon. And if that happens, those are going to be some fights, and we know how that goes when you fight against 4KT. It generally doesn't go all too well. I mean, Lag and C Esports are both still in Paradise Resort there, so we could be looking at a fight that could potentially break out in this particular area. But the rest of the map is looking equally as pressured, and I mean, of course, the longer we go without seeing teams get eliminated, the more difficult this gets, especially on this map. We already start off on this map with less space. We've moved into Zone 2. That's a considerable reduction of playable area. Now, of course, KHK are going to have to make that rotation. They're probably going to run into Rila Insiders if they follow their Eastern Bridge pathway. It looks like Young Thunder moving up. Ultra 6 still alive. Lynx just keeping the hopes and dreams there. Sincerity still on the west. Up in the north, we've got Comfy 6. They're still chilling. They're not contested here just yet. I think this is probably the last zone that these teams are going to have that's going to be at least semi-comfortable. After this, I think it's going to be full cylinders, yeah.
Absolutely. And I mean, we saw that coming through in Erangel, where we had literally only one team drop until Zone 5, which becomes a massive issue on Erangel. But on Sanhok, that's just so much more personified because, as you mentioned, massive reduction in space. You're looking at third parties, fourth parties, fifth parties, and yeah, I agree with you. This is probably the last zone that some teams can actually take some rotations that are semi-safe. After this, it's just going to be, well, how many teams do you want to run into in one go? Like take a pick. The only position I really see that's a little bit safer can be there towards Kampong, Lakawe. Maybe towards that right hand side of the map for the time being, though. Majority of the teams obviously moving in from that left hand side of the map now, trying to just find some sort of safety, some sort of safe haven. But for the time being, I think very quickly this zone is going to, obviously, as it should, force all of the teams into each other's space, and then we're just going to see absolute chaos once again, where teams are picking up each other's kills. Where there's not a clean sweep for anyone really that I can see. Perhaps Comfy 6 towards Black Clover, but for the rest, it's going to be free for all basically. And then unfortunately, the teams that need to pick up those massive points might have to settle, and for the teams that just need to steal something here and there, like our teams who are sitting comfortably, they can do exactly that. This is the perfect opportunity for them to do so. So as we look at it, that zone moving in, Patchy, I mean, at the time, we were looking at Slime for KT, we're looking at KHK. We instead had the young Thundercats come through out on top. Who else do you think we should be keeping our eye on?
That is a tough question because, I mean, we're not sitting with any teams that are super dominant at the moment. I mean, we could point to 4KT, but so far they haven't been dominating every single match. Sometimes they pick up the pace when they're feeling the energy and they're like, yeah, let's do it. Otherwise, they're not necessarily going to take the win. It could be anyone. I mean, BBC, for all we know, could just step it up here and take the chicken dinner in this match. It is completely up in the air, which on one hand is really, really nice because that means anyone has the chance. But on the other hand, it's really tough for making any sort of considerable predictions about who to look at because it could just go straight out the window. I mean, you could point out and say, it's going to be Sincerity, and you have just as much chance of being right at this point. It's really difficult to pin down who's going to make it up until maybe the final few zones or sort of the end game, the late game phase. Right now we're only 2 zones in. We're heading in Zone 3. It's not going to be the most difficult thing. Most of these teams are still on the board. We saw 15 teams of 54 players. They have survived this long, and they haven't been taken out. I mean, even Ultra 6 is still in the game, and Lynx is the only player for that team right now. So, I mean, it could be anyone. At this point, it could be maybe a team like Team Somalia. They've been looking really good. So it's possible that they could easily take a chicken dinner out of this one. But as I said, any of these teams really have a decent chance at taking it.
Agreed. I mean, what's actually quite interesting is as we compare it to our previous seasons, we also mentioned off camera that this season's also been extremely competitive. It hasn't been as top heavy as we saw in previous seasons, but also it's been a lot slower. We're not seeing, as we mentioned, the teams staying alive till those final zones. We're not seeing so many teams get taken out early on. We're seeing a lot of teams, I mean, literally 15 teams in our third to fourth zone as we look at it now on our screens. And here we can finally see some action starting, but still a lot of teams alive. It's really dragging out these games, and it's crazy to see, because obviously, I whether you want to call it because everyone is taking this as seriously as they possibly can, they're not going for any risky plays necessarily, or perhaps they just they're prioritizing rotations, which as well, strategic plays coming through. There could be a vast majority of reasons why we're seeing this trend happening, but for me, it's just amazing to see what a change it's made to those leaderboards. How different we are viewing these numbers and these teams. A little bit of texture lagging going through there, but lag will be picking up at least 1 or 2 kills as we look at it. BBC now in a little bit of trouble because they suddenly had lag just roll up on them and now are looking for a little bit more. Of course, Nihal going down, and now as we talk about it, here's the action that starts. Here's the chaos that begins, Patchy.
Yeah, here it is, of course, and it's not going to really start letting up. As we know, that zone only gets smaller as time progresses. So right, of course, on your screen, you can see BBC up on the top of this hill. We've got lag is starting to push up. We've seen the smokes come down already as damage has been done. Kratos seeing if he can spot anyone out, and you can see lag very much on the doorstep right now. Berserk right up here against Kratos. If he moves, he might just get absolutely destroyed. So it's going to be a tough time in the meantime. C Esports also feeling a little bit of the tough at times, the fights happening up and towards the north of that zone. And things are going to start heating up in the south as well. As you can see, those shots of Flying Wizard getting taken out. Ellie also going to hit the floor. C Esports not having a good time in the hands of Unique either. Just trying to put those shots in, and he is landing them mostly. Exist very, very low on HP at this point. And as I mentioned, it's only going to go up from here. It's only going to get tougher from here. These teams have not spent any of the early game really focused on any of their surrounding teams. They'd rather stay in the game for longer. But what that always means every single time, if you're focused completely on staying in the game and everyone's got the same mindset, you're 100% going to be getting into the late game with just about all the teams still alive. I mean, that's a tough spot to be in, because that means you have to. I mean, despite the fact that you've survived for say 20 minutes, you haven't actually gained anything from that. You haven't moved up any placement points. Maybe you've picked up a kill, perhaps. Other than that, nothing's changed in 20 minutes, other than you've just maybe gotten some loot and gotten yourself into position.
Pretty much. And what's interesting, actually, I saw it happen earlier. I saw Broly just falling back towards the top spot of the map that they actually landed in previously. He went back. Now the rest of the team is under a little bit of pressure there from Rainbow Six, and Broly is still trying to rotate in, and it's just going to get worse because we can see Unique actually pulling up on them as well. So we're talking about third parties now. We might be seeing an unintentional rat coming through. I'm not quite sure why he had to rotate back, but it might be absolutely detriment to the rest of the team. You can also see 4KT now picking up a few kills here, picking up a lot of damage as well onto Sincerity, and Aimer himself has to pop a few meds because it's painful. It's just equally as painful. Those raises coming through now, but Aimer still pushing forward, still trying to find these kills as that nade locked and loaded is cooking it to absolute perfection as it goes through. Sincerity just running away. But that's what we love to see, the double nade coming through, and now an opportunity for 4KT to pick up these kills from Sincerity, down to what I believe is 1 or 2 members left here. It's Inky just, slinking in the grass right now, trying to stay alive for Sincerity. Last member remaining, and he's burning to a literal crisp. It's crispy, my bro. It's crispy.
4KT and Aimer. I mean, that guy has got stones of iron. He just straight up challenged an angle, took most of his HP and damage, didn't even care, won the fight, juiced himself back up, and then just walked in with the nade, man. That's exactly what we like. That's what we like to see. That is some confidence oozing, practically falling off you. at that point. That is really good to see. They just moving up there, and they might be looking to take a chicken dinner off the back of their momentum right now, because that is looking nice and clean. I mean, they're just showing that they can finesse you regardless. You know, just walk up with a cooked nade, toss up, you know, just really just slam dunk, and send you back to the lobby, no problem. Of course, as you can see, the rest of the team's trying to move in Unique, putting some damage in Federal, hitting the deck. Keish also going to get taken out. As you can see, of course, the team there from, I believe that's Black Clover, moving up, exist all the way behind them. Broly also having to move down there, Squeak on the one side. So they're a little bit of a straggling problem here at the moment. Shut down by Azuri as Vibe going to be taken out there. And things are heating up. We're down to 13 teams, but those numbers are falling bit by bit as teams are just under attack, under fire, whether it be blue zone, whether it be fighting, whether it just be the chaos that is about to happen. These teams are now feeling the heat starting to rise for sure.
Or as we were expecting, and here for 4KT now, they're under a little bit of pressure themselves. All of the teams just rolling up on one another, trying to just pick up a little bit of damage here, trying to pick up a kill at best, but it's just absolutely so much pressure for many of the teams as they literally have to keep their heads on a swivel here. Every single angle that you look at could be hiding a team, could be hiding a player. Black Clover there, going out to what I believe is the zone. Not sure if there's any members remaining, but looking at the kill feed, it might not be the case. And Team Somalia actually finding some shots there onto KHK. Now, I mean, 4 layers deep in that zone, and you're running into lag. Oh, it's just not a good combination there. As we look at it, unfortunately, I believe that was Team Unique that, met their end, their untimely end. But as we look at it, 10 teams left here. 4KT still in this, have managed to recover from a little bit of the damage they took earlier. And yeah, the stragglers that we're looking at, Broly and Yo-Yo, still in the zone, in 4 layers deep of the zone. I think their rotations are just so much more delayed because they have to make a pit stop at whatever building they can find to pick up some meds that they're obviously expending just making the trip.
Yeah, there's so many factors that these guys have to consider right now. It's not easy to contend with. Louis actually up here in this small lookout tower is doing some damage, and Maxon actually going to toss a very nice nade for KT under a little bit of pressure here, and maybe they've bitten off a little bit more than they can chew. They were overconfident to take this fight. Now the nades are doing the damage, and it's K8K that is making this happen. KK really just putting in the damage. Some return fire going to come through in their direction. It's not over just yet. 4KT still putting up a fight, but this is definitely further than 4KT have been taken so far in today's games. Of course, the res now coming through bit by bit as they're hoping to bolster their numbers here, but the nades are being prepped, and that might just be enough if they've landed. I'm not sure. No, he does miss. Aimer very low, trying to stay behind cover as long as possible. I'm not sure if he is in any savable position now. Look at that barrage of grenades just being tossed all over the show. This is not an easy position for 4KT to be in. I'm not sure if they're going to be able to come out of this alive, but if it's ever going to be a team, it has to be 4KT. We'll see if they can make it happen. Here comes 5 putting in the shots. The smokes are popped, but they will dissipate at some point. At KHK taking a little bit of damage in the meantime. True going to go down to the blue. 5 is prepping the return nade, seeing if he can land them, and he has. Pennywise gets taken down. Low HPs for KHK, but absolute bombardment. The third party from BBC is going to wipe 4KT off the face of the map. And that is just unfortunate. Of course, it has to be BBC now who gets taken out in return under fire. We've got 5 teams left. BBC now having to make the raid rotate themselves after getting their HPs done and dusted. These guys are just in an absolute slaughterhouse right now.
Yeah, look, I really want to have the stats on how many nades KHK picked up in this round, because I swear since we saw KHK and 4KT, finding each other, it's just been bomb after bomb after bomb that KHK have been dropping on 4KT. And now talking about bombs, there's BBC out. Top 4 teams remaining, and Rainbow Six are going to be extremely elated to pick up those kill points. But as they try and make the rotation to that loot, they're going to be finding themselves in a situation they weren't planning on. Only Gojo left now from KHK, and unfortunately not left any longer. We've got 3 teams remaining now. KHK, Rila Insiders, and Young Thundercats in this final zone, and it's just absolutely, I know you don't like this, lasers coming through here from KHK.
It's the laser beam coming in out of KHK, and they're just absolutely decimating their opponents at this point. Oh man, I'm not too sure if people know how laser beams work, but if you want me to explain it, I will at some point. But in the meantime, we've got KHK coming up against the Rila Insiders. Who is going to take the victory? We're about to find out. KHK have been on something else, and they have managed to survive their absolutely devastating fight with 4KT, thanks to a little bit of a helping hand from BBC. But now they're back on the grind here, looking to take down the Rila Insiders. Some very nice angles from Luis, actually, getting some good damage done across to them, and you can see those HP bars are running out. This is KHK basically done and dusted. They've almost done enough to secure that victory, secure that chicken. They just have to push over that finish line right now. That zone, of course, having moved in bit by bit. KHK have all but won this one. If they make a mistake, they might just get taken out, though. They have to be careful. I think both teams realize how important this last fight is. They don't want to overextend. They don't want to push too hard. But they have to find something in the door. Something has to give. They have to find that foot in the doorway. Otherwise, it's just going to be a stalemate. Some nice nade damage on towards Coco. Could be that go signal, potentially. Jebot and the rest of them crawling in the grass. Zeke gets spotted out. Down he goes. Maxon with some shots coming through. They're very accurate. Going to get taken down. J-Roller coming in, clapping back onto Louis. Zeke, of course, hitting the deck. Things are difficult for both of these teams, and he actually might have just fallen off the side of a cliff there.
I'm pretty sure I saw that, yeah.
That was. But yes, KHK coming up to secure the victory, potentially. J-Roller coming up there. Coco not in the fight, and now the blue zone washing over them, dealing the damage. This could be the game changer here. Coco very much exposed, no cover whatsoever. The rest of the Rila inside is backed up in the blue zone. This might be too much. Louis goes down. That's the first coming through. KHK, what are you doing? You're missing this fight. You're losing. You're falling on the back foot. One player left. That's not enough to fight everyone. I think this is done. I don't know if KHK can 2v3 this. I'm not too sure if Insiders have all they need. Now it's the back foot. They've decided to turn the game around. Oh man, Rila Insiders, they might just be able to take this one if they can hang on for long enough, but I don't think he's going to get the heal in time, and now J-Roller has to fight this as Ro gets taken down by that blue. It has been a back and forth of epic proportions at this point. But now it's on to J-Roller, and he has to 1v2. It's not impossible. He gets so much damage on the first, but instantly he is shut down. He is not going to be able to get that sneaky comeback. And it is going to be KHK to take a chicken dinner and 9 kills all right into the pocket.
Wow. I mean, you know, as we look at our top 3, you've got Young Thundercats sitting in 3rd place with not a single, kill point, but they picked up those placements. You've got Rila Insiders, picking up 7 kill points alongside that 2nd place. And then KHK coming through with 13 kills and the winner chicken dinner. Man, they must be absolutely just swimming in points right now. I mean, when we looked at the overall leaderboard, they were already in that top 8 position. I'm pretty sure they actually had triple-digit points as well. So now I feel like they're just showing off.
Yeah, they're doing what we were suggesting earlier, where it doesn't matter if you're at the top. Just keep playing, keep hitting hard, keep getting the chickens and stealing the points away from everyone else. That's how we do it. Yeah, that's how you do it. If somebody needs the points, make sure you don't give them any.
Look, I mentioned in Nkosi, they were one of our most consistent teams. They were one of the teams that we saw regularly within Nkosi Season 3. So I'm not really surprised that, they're still continuing that consistency now that they've been promoted to Umzansi. They're picking up some insane points. They've done well in other tournaments, I might add as well. They've really been putting in the time and the effort to get to the level that they are today. And I'm not surprised that we are seeing the sort of performance coming through. But Patchy, let's look at those standings, right? And I mentioned at the beginning of Sanhok, we saw 4 members of Slime 4KT, which, as we have been conditioned to believe, is generally when we should be shipping in our boots for the rest of the team. But instead, it's KHK picking up 2 points away from that 30-point game. As we mentioned, very few teams are able to do that, and they have certainly proved that they are one of them.
Yeah, I mean, right now we're looking at KHK and we're looking at Rila Insiders. Both of these teams are teams that are sitting right at the top of the log. And I mean, even if we go down to position number 6, Slime 4KT still picking up 10 points despite getting taken out as they did. which is just a testament to how these top teams are performing right now. KHK sitting at the top, Rila Insider sitting at the top, 4KT sitting at the top. The only team that we haven't really been able to talk about who hasn't really been able to put up points today so far is, of course, G3, who are also sitting at the top of the log. But of course, their group is still to come. So they will get a chance to continue to put the points on the board. But I mean, right now, what else do we expect coming out of the teams? Of course, moving on to that second page to highlight Comfy 6 in position number 9, only able to take 3 points out of that match. Not the worst. I mean, any points is better than no points. But I think, right now they've added the 3 points to the 18 points from the previous game. So they're making progress. I would like to actually stick around a little bit to watch that overall standing. So if you're interested in that, you can actually check because the overall standings do flash during the break. And of course, at the end of map number 3, we'll also put those up on screen while we are speaking. But speaking of that, MVP has to be KHK. And of course, it is Jebot going to be picking that one up. 900 points of damage, but only 4 kills. That means that this guy was doing the damage. Not necessarily getting those kills, but he was doing the damage.
That's a lot of damage.
That's a lot of damage.
And I mean, listen, that really does help for the team. And at the end of the day, it's a team game. Whether you're doing the damage, but your team are picking up the points, as long as they're picking up those points, you all win at the end of the day as the team together. So it's fantastic to see those sort of contributions, and sometimes they get overlooked. But I'm glad we can actually focus them with our wonderful graphics, thanks to our production team. Thanks, guys, we appreciate you. But talking about that, we're going to go to a short break. When we come back, of course, it is the last map of the day, and within the halfway point of round 1. So this is really where we start to teeter, where we start to see some teams potentially falling off, or some teams really stepping it up. Stay with us, you don't want to miss it. Welcome back, everyone, to Umzansi Season 4, Map 2, done and dusted. So we're going to be going over the standings shortly, just to remind you of what we saw, what had happened at least. And yeah, it was quite interesting because once again, we have a different team taking the winner chicken dinner. And quite surprisingly enough, with such an amount of points on Sanhok nonetheless, KHK really managing to hold on to their surroundings and control it as much as possible, picking up those 28 points. Rila Insiders as well picking up a very decent 19, with Rainbow Six Madagascar picking up 15 points. And then it starts to really teeter off. Like, Patchy, this is a really top heavy standings that we're looking at.
Yeah, but it's top heavy in the sense that the top 6 teams have walked away with a considerable number of points. And I mean, I guess that makes sense when you've got the likes of 4KT in slot 6, when they pick up only 4 placement points, but then they supplement that with 6 kills and end up with 10 points. And then everyone above them, BBC, Young Thunder, all 10 points. So, I mean, if you've got 4, 5, and 6 taking 10 points each, everyone else is not getting points. That's just the bottom line. Nobody else in this game is getting points. I mean, you can see page number 2 is looking like scraps. 3 points apiece. 1 point for Fear. Sincerity and Ultra 6 coming away with nothing. That's not what you want. That's not the way you want to. That's not the way you want that game to go at all. So, I mean, Pubg 6, they're definitely hoping for a bit more in map number 3. And of course, with Miramar, it's going to be quite the test of accuracy and the long-range engagement potentials. Because that, of course, comes out in a big way on this particular map. But, I mean, I think one of the things that really shakes everything up is the fact that we don't know who's going to win. I don't know who's going to take this map, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I don't think you can call it at this moment in time because, I mean, we were really rooting for 4KT because we've seen them do this again last weekend. They brought out 4 players on Sanhok, and all of a sudden we had a completely different conversation around them. It was a completely different, scenario. Now, that's not what we had, coming through. Of course, they did pick up quite a number of kills. Like, we can't take that away from them, but they weren't the ones to pick up that 28-point game. Normally they, as we've mentioned, they do well not only with kill points but with their placement points as well. So it is a little bit bizarre. It's it's a little strange, And weirdly enough, I was looking at the overall standings during the break. Comfy 6, they've done a pretty good job at just getting themselves off that last page. I think they're sitting on the second last one now. But of course, when the rest of the teams get the opportunity to play, once again, there's an opportunity that they could be pushed down. Ultra 6, also one of the teams that is actually sitting third from last at the moment. So they're also a team that really needs to pick up points. And for Comfy 6, they can't start to slack now because that second last page is still danger. it's still scary to be there because as soon as any other team picks up some points, they push you down to that last page again. It's a constant game of musical chairs, if we can call it that, unfortunately. So you have to stay consistent, if you're towards that latter half of the overall standings. And for a lot of teams, I think that's been a little bit of a struggle, for the likes of like Yonkers and 4KT. They're picking up points consistently, and it's going to show on the overall leaderboard. But I have one good game every 4 or 5 games. It might not be enough to get them through to the next phase, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even if it is enough to get them through the next phase, it certainly won't do them well to get to the one after that, And I mean, unfortunately, that is the ultimate end game. We're trying to separate teams. We're trying to separate, the cream of the crop versus just the fluff, and then that ultimately has to be what happens when we want to determine the best of the best for the season. So, as unfortunate as it is, that's just the way things go. So we have to get there at some point. Somebody has to take the L. And the question is just who are going to be the teams that actually do that, who are going to get relegated. So we're keeping a very close eye on that 4th page. But for the time being, we have one more game today, the Miramar. It's coming up. It's a nice big map, plenty of space. Hopefully the teams get busy. One of the things I like about this map in particular, and what I see quite often actually on this map, is there's a big contrast because on Erangel, on Sanhok, we have these really slow games. But then when we come to Miramar, where you expect the slow game because it's so big, you actually get the opposite, and things like start out kind of quickly. So I'm hoping that happens again.
Yeah, we've had a pretty slow season, as I mentioned in the previous game. We've actually had a very, I'd say I'd call it a very methodical season, if I can put it that way. It's not the teams hot dropping on one another, trying to go for those early kill points, trying to take out as many teams as they possibly can so early on, and then start just rushing every single team that they can find. It's very, let's check where we're dropping. Where are the other teams? Oh, we see another team drop, relatively close to us. We're not going to take that fight though. We're going to rotate, get our guns, loot up, and then we will think about engaging. So it's a little bit more passive than we'd see in previous seasons, especially last season, which was so action packed. It was active. Everyone was just looking for kills after kills after kills after kills, and it meant that towards those final zones, it was really slow because there was just so little teams that they just never ran into each other. And here, I mean, we have 15, 14 odd teams within the fourth to fifth to sixth zone, which is ridiculous. There's not enough space, please. But it's what we keep seeing. So I'm very curious to see, if Miramar, the literal best culprit for this sort of behavior, will still breed that sort of methodical play from the rest of these teams, or if some of them have I don't know, they get a little bit fed up from playing it safe, and they're just like, I just want to run at someone. I just want to get into a buggy. I just want to run at someone.
Yeah, well, we're about to have a look and see what's going to happen down there towards the south because we've already seen that zone dropping up north. Some interesting stuff. Unfortunately, no one going to be going down to that southern island, so no patchy points for this map. Sad boys, but of course, looking at what we do have, there is some good potential here, but unfortunately, I don't think we have seen any hot drops or early fights happening, which is a little bit disappointing so far. We've got Comfy Six moving across from Losley Owens, trying to get out of that spot. Team Somalia right up ahead, and then we got Fear down in towards the south, smashed in there with the Young Thundercats and a couple of other teams. We've also got Sincerity down there in Puerto Preso. And yeah, the rest of the team's kind of just scattered throughout the map. We've got KHK on the northwest. We've got Black Clover all the way up in the north. Ultra 6 just below them, and a couple of teams in towards the center. So right now, I guess it really just is a question of who pulls the trigger first, who spots out a team first, who gets on top of their game first. Because one of the dangers of this particular map is because it's so large, if you don't make something happen, then nothing happens. And nothing will continue to happen until you make something happen, unless you wait all the way until late game, at which point we already know it's a little bit too late.
And it's just about balancing all of that, right? It's, again, we mentioned there's so many factors that these teams have to just constantly keep aware of and have to just hold on to and have at the back of their minds 24/7. It's exhausting if you think about it. But before I get onto that topic, what is happening here with Unique and 4KT? Zuri, do you realize you're in between two 4KT members right now?
I think he went on a little bit of an excursion and did not realize that there were
Mm-hmm.
predators in the grass. I think he accidentally crossed the fence and didn't read the
Oh dear.
sign that said, there's freely roaming wild animals on the other side of this fence. So he's gotten himself into a little bit of a pickle here because 4KT are relentless animals right now, and they just about devour everything that they come across. And now he's got two of them knocking on his door. Fex, of course, opening the proverbial door, and he's certainly knocking. Except he's not doing the knocking with his hand; he's doing the knocking with a magazine full of hot lead. But it's going to be exist on the back. You got to be careful for those third parties, ladies and gentlemen. 4KT, you can't trip
Oh.
up on that confidence. If you're going to go in, but don't waste time because he's called in the backup. He was just the bait. It's actually a bait and switch right now. It's been unique that we're actually the predators, and 4KT now find themselves on the wrong side of that
No.
fence.
I love this play coming through from Unique. Azuri just absolutely playing the bait role to perfection. And they've caught out Fex now. Zeus still just dodging and weaving here between the hay bales, but has to be careful because, as you mentioned, the cavalry has arrived and they have all but surrounded these two members of 4KT. And now exactly the same thing is happening for them. The rest of the 4KT members have rolled up. Aimer there towards the flank there, just behind Exist, trying to pick up something to just give his teammates a little bit of space to work with here, whereas at the moment it's basically a 2-on-1 scenario on both players. Aimer here climbing the roof, trying to get away to safety, managing to do some damage though. I think actually a knock there came through for Zuri, so still at the moment for KT, they are managing to stay in this, but for how long is the question. Rez popping off now there to fix Zeus. Going to be able to just help out the teammate, and here's the last remaining members of 4KT. They've all rolled up onto this position here, relatively split 2-2 each, except Keish has managed to get into the same building, but they need to get the shots as well. Keish going to be finding Fix, just making sure that that res is not going to be complete as we look at it now. Oh, it's just not working out for Unique. It looks like 4KT might have actually turned around the turnaround.
Yeah, that is what happens when you play it with fire. Right now, it is absolute chaos here for KT running through. But Sorry on the back line trying to cause a little bit of chaos of his own. And he's finding the damage. Aimer has to come and help once again. 4KT dealing with so many players, but they have managed to isolate all the way down to Sorry on the back line. He's trying to stay alive here. The nades are coming down, but Sorry is laying down the fire, and he's finding player after player. 4KT, you have to be careful not to get taken out. Your 5 pushing up that LMG. Is it going to be enough? The damage goes through, almost enough to get the knock, but not quite, and there it is. He does get it, and 4KT will successfully win the fight, but just barely. That almost went completely south, almost a complete different result.
I would be sweating right now. I would absolutely be sweating if I was 4KT. That looked absolutely terrifying there for a moment. I mean, Unique played that so well. The call was given, the rotation came through. They were literally in the cars, showing up like the mafia almost, ready to rumble, but it just didn't turn out the way that they wanted it. I mean, speaking about showing up like the mafia, we're just running off. We're literally driving buggies off of a cliff here to try and get our kills at this moment in time, Batty.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I believe I can fly if you believe you can fly. See, Esports certainly does appear to believe that they can fly, but they might just be flying back to the zone real quick because Ultra 6 have something to say about that. Wizard risks, and Ellie not in a good position. Brunny has to make some long-range shots here, and I'm not sure there's much they can do because they're not in the position. They've got a sniper. I mean, what can they do except watch their teammates die at this point? He's looking for a little bit of a shot, but yeah, I guess that just proves that, you know, as much as you believe you can fly, gravity is a thing. You know, it hurts. 9.8 meters per second downwards. It's a little bit of an enemy when it is when you're flinging yourself off the side of a cliff. Regardless of whether it be in a vehicle or not. So Brunny, of course, going to find themselves as the last player remaining here for C Esports. A daring attempt at an assault, not going to work out for them whatsoever. Now Ultra 6 has the best foot forward here, and they just have to find Brunny and maybe take them out. As for the rest of the teams, they are still in the game at the moment, just chilling, vibing around the map, waiting to see where it is that the next zone is going to drop, because, of course, that blue has almost closed up once again. And its position where it decides to go next will determine where the rotates have to come through. Okay, it's going to be nice and easy down towards the southeast. Most of the teams already going to be well within that limit. It's only KHK and Black Clover that need to move in, as well as Broly there with the rest of the company 6 who are still here. We'll have an eye on them to see how they fare going into the rest of this game. And now we just wait and see where the next fight breaks out. Maybe 4KT is going to go up in towards KHK. After their tussle against, what was it, Unique earlier, they're looking ready for another fight, it seems.
Oh, yeah. 4KT is very happy after that little incident there with Unique. So now if KHK decide to try and do the same thing, which, I mean, at the moment, they've sort of got a little bit of a scout situation going on here. Magazine has moved forward, is just on the heels there of 4KT, so could get some information relayed to the rest of the team where they are still rotating up. And at the moment, you know, 4KT just sitting on that zone sideline, just waiting to see what it happens, how it rotates, and then make their move for the time being. So, you know, this lone member here of KHK needs to be careful, because very quickly we might be seeing 5 just pick up a nasty little angle there. And then, unfortunately, KHK will have to play a little bit of a recovery game. Does look like they are aware that there's a 4KT member looking for them. And I mean, 14 teams left. It's only been Unique that's dropped out at this moment in time. We're looking at the second zone now. Or, no, nothing. No, no.
Not taking the shot
Maybe.
here.
No, we're scouting. We're getting information. We're telling the rest of our team, please rotate sooner. There's a man running around.
I think that's probably the best decision. Okay, waiting for the right moment to strike. He does get the knock, but of course, as you mentioned, the rest of his team kind of needs to come up here. Otherwise, it's going to be a bit of a difficult time. 4KT have now been alerted to his position, and they will have to respond. Max and going to run up and maybe go isolate that final player for a thirst, which could be a good move. But once again, he is not backed up by the rest of his team, so this could be a bit of a difficult fight if the rest of 4KT have an angle on this position. I'm not sure if they do. 5 is kind of exposed, but he's on the right side. 4KT moving in to try and reinforce the position. Aimer is here, so of course Maxon can't really push over the crest of that hill. 5, very low on HP, but they might just be able to get the res. Yeah, I think it's going to come through. In the meantime, Team Somalia under a little bit of fire. Some damage done by Nade is going to make things difficult, but the res should come through, and it does. 5 gets back up. Oh no! Instantly gets knocked straight down again. That is definitely not a position you want to be in. The bullets are certainly flying now as they try and keep Maxon off this angle. But he's just being a pest right now.
I mean, that's all you need to do, really, right? You just need to annoy the rest of the teams while your teams are making the rotations. Look, yes, but I mean, it could be an absolute. It could be literally the repeat of what we saw with Unique and 4KT, except if KHK play this a little bit better, it might actually go their way. That is, of course, if the rest of KHK can make. Oh, okay, no, they have straight up just abandoned this poor man. They have literally just said, "You're on your own." Sorry.
They have left Captain Jack Sparrow on the island with a single shot.
Literally, surely they go back, right? Pennywise, the rest of KHK, guys, come on. That's not okay. I mean, Comfy 6 also still making that rotation, taking a little bit of damage there from the zone as it stands here. Oh, Marcus, oh no. He's been abandoned. They've abandoned him, Patchy.
It happens. It happens. No. Sometimes things just don't work out. Sometimes the people that you trust the most betray you. At this point, Magazine, he's left all alone, isolated from his team as 4KT scour the grounds for him, and all he has to do is stand up and be counted, and he certainly has been. Down he goes. 4KT will pick up the thirst and deal with the pest that has been bothering them for so long. Some nice fly spray ought to do it. And they pick that kill up as KHK all the way on the other side up towards the north of their map. Not in any position to help, just leaving poor Maxon to die as the rest of the teams move in towards that zone. And we are still on 14 teams. That is still too much.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, again, we mentioned this, right? The season has been so slow. So many teams staying alive till those last final moments. Only 3 zones deep, of course, but as we know, Miramar, a little bit of a slower paced game. But still, Patchy, only 1 team has dropped. I mean, some players have dropped here. As you can see, Squeak going down there to the play zone. It's a rough rotation to make it that far in for Comfy 6. So unfortunately, I think a few of the members will be punished, unfortunately. And it looks like they're doing some punishment of their own, as Comfy 6 have found the players who abandoned their teammates of KHK and taking a few shots there. I can't believe it, man. I can't believe it.
Oh no. Yeah, that definitely is a bit of a sad position, especially considering I actually do think that KHK could have taken that fight against 4KT. I honestly think that could have gone in favor of KHK there. I mean, just Maxon alone was doing so much damage and being quite annoying. I mean, he was holding the attention of 3 players at least, just a single guy. I mean, if the rest of KHK was there, they could have easily started to pick that apart and maybe done something then. They could have taken 4KT out. So, yeah, it's a bit unfortunate that those rotations were out of sync. Maybe there was no team communication there, or maybe the rest of the team just didn't feel like it. But whatever the reason is, Zeus is going to yeet himself into oblivion. KHK up on the side, taking a little bit of damage here. You can see as they try and enter into the zone. You've got Jebot right up here trying to pave the way for the rest of the team, trying to carve out a safe spot here, just barely inside that zone as we move in towards zone number 4. The Rila inside is holding this position quite difficult. 4KT pushing in from the one side as well. You did see one player go down there. 5 is now fighting in the blue, so they are dancing a little bit with some problems. Brawley on the one side. I think that's actually the entirety of Comfy 6 that have found themselves now captured inside that blue zone. That's definitely not where you want to be.
Oh yeah, no, I mean already with some knocks coming through, they do have the vehicles, but as you mentioned, I mean, most likely going to be crossing paths here with J Roll. Oh no, what's happening? What is happening? How? Okay, I think there was a little bit of
It's a drive-by.
going on. It's a drive-by, but unfortunately attention was not paid, and now somehow, someway, Comfy 6 have at least found one member here, maybe a foothold here in the position, to try and find themselves a little bit of safe haven as they've made that long rotation through the zone. Whether or not they can survive that, I'm not too sure, because I do see 4KC rolling up on the exact same position, 4 zones deep now, so they would rather make that early rotation and get into the zone. Young Thundercats also taking quite a bit of damage there from Sincerity, so now everyone is just rolling up on each other's turf. You can see Comfy 6 down to so low. I believe it's only Squeak left alive, unless Broly is once again somehow somewhere in the zone staying alive for the team of Comfy 6. We'll have to wait and see though if Squeak can manage just to hold on to this one. 4KT applying a lot of pressure here. Bullets absolutely just flying left, right, and center through that smoke. And I mean, just a few more to connect, and then Squeak, unfortunately, will be going out, and that looks like Comfy 6 out for the count in 14th position. And 4KT once again picking up those kill points to just help out the leaderboard and to just prove me wrong, which I'm very happy about. Don't get me wrong, very happy when teams do much better than we expect them to do. But as it stands at the moment, we've got Bruno there from C. I'm not sure if they're in a vehicle, so they could be rotating or just right on top of each other. Might be played by the minimap, but we'll see how that ends up being. But Ultra 6 still in the zone, and it looks like they've got a knock here, so they're gonna have to wait, get that res, then try and make the zone with 4 layers deep. That's gonna hurt, Patchy.
It is. It absolutely is. You do not want to be tempting the fate to a zone right now, especially as we move from 4 to 5. That's too much damage. You're going to be really playing against the code of the game at this point, once if you try that kind of stuff out. In the meantime, the inside is pushing on up. Djibouti is trying to stay alive here, pushing 3 Oaks right up here with him. Very low on HP. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to take this fight. He tries. He gets taken down immediately, however, because that's just not a fight you're going to win. He was trying at least, but yeah, I think he doubled back a few too many times. They should have just jumped off the side and maybe tried to make a break for it. But in any case, you have to make the tough decisions here, and I don't think any decision is really favorable when you're getting pushed by 3 players and you don't have any assistance, and that's what happens. So, of course, now BBC under a little bit of fire here. Fantasy pushing on up all the way towards Falak, putting the damage in, and he actually does get that burst as well. So Fantasy and the rest of the lag squad is becoming a little bit of a thorn in BBC's side. Luckily, they are still within zone, so the fight is happening in safety of the zone for the time being. Fantasy taking a little bit of damage, but staying alive as BBC continue to try and keep their ground and then stay firmly planted right now, because it's basically just a land battle at this point as they wait and see where the next zone is going to drop and force out the rotate. So there it is, of course, zone heading in towards the west. That is going to force both Lag and BBC and the surrounding teams to push in. In fact, 4KT is the only team with a player inside zone right now. 5 is going to be relocated immediately to try and get a priority spot, which is going to be super useful for them. Here's Lag still. Oh, what a nice flank coming through from Fantasy, catching BBC unaware. That's a quick knock coming through for him, which is a huge problem for BBC, because now really Insiders have a free push up in towards BBC. Some nades are going through, Nahal taking so much damage right now. It is a tough time all around. The third parties are absolutely insane. I mean, look at this. Everyone is trying to get a piece of that action, and they're also trying to plan their rotate, because that zone is creeping up as well.
Now, this is, sometimes where a lot of the teams actually get caught out. You get so focused on what's happening around you and where you could be picking up these kills that you don't actually, check what's in front of you, where you're going to be rotating after you finish this fight. Where's your safe even going to be? Where you're going to recoup? Maybe re-heal, set yourself up for the next fights and what happens thereafter. So again, so much that these players have to deal with and that they have to consider time in and time out. We can see Zeke once again doing what you would expect from one of our kill leaders, just absolutely throttling those shots into everyone he could be finding. And at this moment in time, it does look like Lag is finding themselves in a little bit of a tough situation here. Rainbow Six putting in a lot of shots, a lot of damage dealt. Dojo here just trying to find one and finish off what I believe is the last member there of Lag, dodging and diving through the window as we go. And at the moment in time, it's just a back and forth between these two players. They both need to hold on for their teams, but it looks like Lag will be out for the count in 10th position. And now it is once again the chaos that ensues. Rila Insiders as well, unfortunately, being victim there to some of the damage that is being dealt around. We're down to 7 teams all of a sudden as C does go down, and 4KT as well taking some damage there. I'm not quite sure if they're still alive in this. Can't yet see some players, but Black Clover, unfortunately, also just suffering here. And it's what happens when you have so many teams within those final zones. Again, as we've mentioned, time in and time out, it is absolute chaos.
Yeah, it is. 4KT still alive, as you can see there, so we do get that quick confirmation. But you're absolutely right on that front. I mean, this is a debate that's as old as season 1, basically, where, it's all well and good, as I mentioned earlier, that you stay alive. Sure, that's great. You've got time in the game, you can get your positioning well, and maybe you're trying to reach your slots up. But if nobody is dying, there's a problem, because you're still in the same spot. And as I mentioned, if you've spent 20 minutes getting here, then you've been rewarded for nothing. You've gotten nothing. Maybe you've gotten a good position, but I mean, as you mentioned, we've got RNG to battle against, and that's not an element that you can fully control. So you have to try and control as many elements of this game as possible. And one of those is, isolating players, forcing them to make mistakes, getting picks, that kind of stuff. And the less active you are in the beginning of the game, the more difficult the late game becomes. This we know, and the teams have felt, quite happy to let that happen. And you can't really blame them for that. They're just doing what they know how to do. And some teams just prosper off the back of that. And right now we're watching exactly that happen. We're watching G3 at the top of the leaderboards. We're watching KHK at the top of the leaderboards. 4KT at the top of the leaderboard. So I mean, it's absolute nuts. And speaking of, here's 4KT laying down the pressure on towards Team Somalia now. Who find themselves in a bit of a difficult spot. They're behind the vehicle. 5 switching his crosses almost immediately, just instantly moving over towards Sincerity, laying down some proper damage. They're instantly going to get taken out, though, in retaliation as the teams exchange fire across the entire map. Here are the long-range engagements you have been waiting for, and it is coming in very, very hot over towards these teams. You can see Rainbow Six trying to put some shots over in towards 4KT as we're shaved down to 4 players. Sincerity getting eliminated. Sorry, 4 teams as 4KT are just absolutely eliminating Sincerity there and the rest of those players. BBC getting taken out as well, and leaving us with diminished players. So we got Rainbow Six, we got 4KT still on the battlefield at the moment. We got the Rila Insiders fighting for what could potentially be a chicken dinner, depending on how they play this. Rainbow Six and Team Somalia seem to be 1 player each. I don't see anyone else on the map right now. So it's actually a 1v1, v2, v2. Purpose
Wow.
getting a lot of damage, almost getting taken out. I mean, you could breathe in his direction and probably pick that kill up.
Literally, but thankfully, that's what first aid kits are for. Although it doesn't look like the pressure is going to stop anytime soon. You can see just barely dodging those bullets that are flying right past him. And yeah, I think you're exactly right. Unfortunately, Rainbow Six and Team Somalia each only have 1 player snaking around there in the dirt trying to stay alive. And as I say that, 4KT are going to be finding the last remaining player there of Rainbow Six, who go out in 4th place. Not too bad in terms of placement points, but you can see 4KT, they're just hopping and skipping around. They are very happy to find anyone to pick a fight with at this moment in time. They've been doing so well to survive this Miramar game alone that I can't imagine the hype that they must be feeling right now. They must be absolutely elevated and ready for this game. And does look like Rila Insiders, they have 3 members remaining, as do 4KT. So 3 apiece each for those 2 teams, and then Kingerman, the lone member left there of Team Somalia, just hiding by the car, hoping that the camouflage is absolutely insane, which so far it's looking like yeah, for the time being, let's just see if Kingerman can actually snake his way into this.
Well, we are going to have to wait and see. Kingerman right here on the back sneaking around behind 4KT. And that's definitely not a team you want to trifle with, so he has to be super careful because 4KT are on his case. They're tossing those nades. They're ready for those kills. I'm not sure if they're going to pick it up. The damage hasn't gone through, but they're certainly looking for him at the very least, which should be a cause for concern. And there it is, damage coming in towards 4KT as 5 getting taken out there very quickly. Kingerman doing some damage on the back line. They're backed up by the Rila Insiders who are third-partying on the other side, and this is a sandwich for 4KT.
No way.
They might just get taken out here. This is not their game to win. It's Rila Insiders. It's Kingerman. They've come to throw a bit of a spanner in the works. Aimer on the backside. He gets spotted out by Kingerman. That might just be the end. Bluesman coming up, but it's Aimer getting taken out. 5, getting taken out. Zeus getting taken out. 4KT not in a spot to contend, and now it's a 1v1 versus Aimer and Kingerman to try and make it happen, and Kingerman just wins the battle. And now it's a 1v3. He's boosted up Team Somalia into second place guaranteed. I mean, whether he wins this 1v3 or not, he just won a fight in a perfect scenario there up against 4KT, who are looking for him, throwing nades in his direction. And he just spotted that moment and he took it absolutely perfectly. Of course, he will get taken out there, but it doesn't matter. He has just gotten himself 5, I think 2 or 5 free points just off the back of that, moving himself from 3 to 2. So,
Man.
I mean, well played.
Absolutely. I mean, Real Insiders, of course, picking up the winner chicken dinner, but for Kingerman to somehow, some way read that timing and actually make it work for him, it's insane. I mean, that once again, you know, we're seeing these repeats of these solo clutches coming through. And yes, he didn't necessarily clutch, you know, the winner chicken dinner, but as you mentioned, he moved up his team into that second place, picked up 3 points on Slime 4KT nonetheless. You know, that in and of itself, going against the likes of Aimer and Fex and, you know, 5, and managing to make it work, that's something to scoff at. You know, 4KT is an absolutely amazing team. So for Team Somalia, Kingerman, absolute MVP, surely. But we'll take a look at that shortly. But yeah, I actually can't believe that that's how we ended up the game. We had a 3v3 v1, and the 1 took out the 3.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, sometimes 1 is greater than 3. You know, maths is not always right.
No.
As we've just been proven here, despite 4KT being in a 1v3, they got pressured from both sides. Really, Insiders, they did well to keep those shots coming in. Kingerman took his moment. He spotted the opportunity. He just went for it, and he got those kills. He won the battles, and he really just caught them out, got the kills, moved his team up into second place. And of course, you could see the result of that. Rila Insiders coming in second, Team Somalia coming in a third with 16 there. So they've pocketed a decent number of points there. 4KT, of course, still coming in number 1 just because of those kills. And this is a constant thing that we see every single time. And, you know, the more we talk about it, you know, the more I feel like people brush it over. But we can't stress this enough. This is how you win. Overall, this is how you push your team to the top every time. It's not always about those placements. You know, I was talking earlier about how it's not necessarily always the best idea to try and stay alive as long as possible if you're not getting kills. Slime 4KT, we saw them fighting right from the beginning of the game. That's why they're getting kills. Sure, they almost got taken out, but they didn't. They won, and they got kills. And then they just moved on, and they took another fight, and they got kills. And then they made it in towards the end. Sure, they didn't get a chicken dinner, but they still placed in the top 3. And that's just an insta-pocket win right there, based off of your kills and those placements that you get. So you can change your entire situation just by being active and getting kills. And 4KT are proof of that, if not even in Season 3 here, of course, in Season 4. So absolutely, that is the way to do it. That's the way to play the game. Now, imagine if they had picked the chicken dinner up there as well. They would have just gotten even more points. But this is actually an interesting thought as well. You can theoretically get more points in kills more consistently if you focus on that area, because once you reach the top of the leaderboard in terms of placements, the number of points that you can actually get starts to dwindle, right? So when you move over into that double-digit bracket, it's great. Top 3, fantastic. But then the points start to dwindle between first and third. In any case, of course, your MVP has to come out of 4KT. getting so many kills. 8 kills in his pocket, 5 doing the damage, 1,008 points of damage for his team. And that is just a testament to them not really caring about those placements as much as they care about the kills. And, you know, that reflects. It reflects in their performance.
I mean, 5 literally picking up half the kills that 4KT managed to find in that game. And I just want to mention, you know, KHK sitting at the bottom of that those standings. You know, that's what happened when you abandon your teammates.
Silently judged.
I'm gonna start bringing in some proxy points, and I'm gonna start minusing when you abandon your teammates, but sometimes it has to happen. Here is the overall leaderboard of today. After today's games, of course, this is including all the teams, even the ones that we haven't seen today. So if you see some names that you might not recognize, that's why. So as it stands currently, absolutely congratulations to Rila Insiders for picking up 170 points. Slime 4KT right behind them with 165, and KHK still in that top 3 with 152. So 3 of the team, like our top 3 is literally teams we saw today, naturally, because they were the ones playing. See, Esports still in here, Team Somalia. So I mean, there's a lot of teams from the group that we saw today actually on this first page of the leaderboard, which is fantastic to see.
Yeah.
And once again, Patchy, I mean, look at how many teams are picking up those triple digits now.
Yeah, and I mean, this is the territory that we're going into. You know, it's no longer just viable to be in those triples. You got to get more, and really, Insiders are knocking on the door of 200 now, very close to it at least. You know, a couple of points away, 30 points away. I suspect we're going to be seeing teams from the other group start to make it up as well. G3, of course, you have to continue to keep an eye on. You can't really count them out. Sure, they're in 4th place now, but they still have games to play within their groups that are upcoming in the weeks to come. So you can't knock those teams off the board just yet. And of course, there's a couple of teams that are also knocking on the door, like Sidemen, for instance, 92 points. So they're quite close to making that 100-point mark and maybe sneaking their way up onto that first page. So you could see people still have games to play, but that, you know, our leaders on the top of that leaderboard right now are definitely doing a fantastic job of distancing themselves as far as possible from the rest of the competition. Now, one of the things that really does put a bit of a stop in one's exponential growth, should we say, is that, of course, in the next round, eventually, when we move into round 2, we do a bit of a reset, we start again, and the teams get a chance to go at it once again and prove themselves. One of the most interesting things that I'm noting here about page number 3 is Comfy 6. They've made it up onto position 23 off of page 4. So here we go. You know, we were talking about this, following this this line right here for Comfy 6. They needed to get out of that position, out of 4th page, out of potential relegation, and they've done the job. They've moved up onto page number 3, and if they continue to work at it, they can surely be consistent enough to keep themselves maybe in this particular area and maybe escape relegation for this round at least.
But again, it's, as you said, if they keep working at it, because as we know, you know, the other teams, they still have to play their games. And when you look at the next page, we'll see, you know, if any of those teams pick up some massive points, you know, to get them. Let's actually take a look. Comfy 6 now sitting on 53 points. The lowest behind them on the previous page was 52. The next is sitting on 44, 43, 38. You know, that's not an insane number of points. You know, you can pick that up within, you know, maybe a day of games, maybe a weekend of games. Either way, you know, it's doable. And it's so close. Like, I don't see anyone here on this page that are so far behind that they can't, you know, just pull up, you know, an absolute sweepstakes there towards the end and actually find themselves a spot in the semifinals. So consistency is the key. That is the best advice we can give to any of these teams. Is it's still not over. We're only halfway through the first round of Umzansi Season 4, so it is still heating up. There's still a lot of teams that have the potential to move forward, and of course the way that they do that is by coming back week after week, playing their games, and hopefully to try and avoid relegation, which we know relegation is where the bottom teams of Umzansi play the top teams of Inkosi. Now, Inkosi is an open cup, so if you want to take part, it has already started. We also have a brand new host this season, so things are looking really interesting that side on Season 4 of Inkosi. If you want more information about that, you can check out the nodongaming.africa website and maybe register, and maybe we might be screaming your name on the Umzansi broadcast. But that has been the day coming to a close. We've done all our maps, we've seen all the teams going absolutely crazy, and of course, course, we have our results tomorrow. Again, same time, same place. Dr. Sid hopefully will be here to join us, given any sort of network issues. But once again, this action continues. This is Umzansi Season 4, brought to you by Nodwin Gaming Africa. We're going to say thank you so much for watching. Thank you to our casters. Well, thank you, Patchy. Thank you, me. Thank you to our production team and our observers for joining us today and making the show just amazing. And of course, thank you to our viewers. It's been absolutely amazing, and we hope to see you again tomorrow, same time, same place. Until then,